Welcome to the Photo Flunky Show, episode 139. Today's topic, shit photographers say. Hi, welcome to the Photo Flunky Show. My name is William Beem.
Hi, my name is Lee Beem.
And we are here to help photographers become better visual storytellers so they can take better photos to share, sell, and remember. But today, you know what? This episode is mostly for entertainment.
We have a lot of it sometimes, sitting reading stuff and watching stuff.
Sometimes photographers say things that aren't really quite accurate. And I thought, you know what? It never hurts to know common sentiments and sayings and what they really mean when someone says some of these things. And with that, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So one of the things I love, I just did an episode on this not long ago, or we did an episode on this.
Yes.
There's photographers who say, I only use natural light.
Oh, where do you get it?
All right. The reason that this one is just one of my favorites is because
it's organic.
It's ignorant. Organic. It's all light is natural. You may generate what starts light, but light is light. You got photons that are moving. Light is found in nature. So the idea that light from the sun is so much better than light from a flash is absurd. It's the same thing. So it's just, what it really means is I don't know how to use a flash and modify the light.
Yes, exactly.
And that's no longer you, because you didn't want to mess with flash. It's not that you believed that sunlight was better than anything else.
No, it was just easier and quicker in a pinch than learning.
It was easier if it wasn't raining.
Yeah.
It was easier if the sun was just right, or if you had a cloud diffusing it, or the wind wasn't blowing your stuff up.
Oh, the wind. Huh.
Yeah. You had to go outside at certain times and hope the wind wasn't there. We actually had 3 dogs, and we had to make sure that they were taken out of the backyard because they're very curious about your photography.
They've already eaten my tripod.
And how is this simpler than flash? To me, it isn't. But
well, minus the dogs and the dirt and the wind, it was just easier.
And the rain.
And the rain. On an ideal day, and most days I didn't have a problem with it, but we had things changing in our family. We didn't always have the same dogs. We used to have lawn there instead of what has now become dirt and sand. Yeah. So things have changed. The rain will, I just knew if it was raining, I'd have to wait until after and go out. Over the last 18 months, it started getting more and more difficult. There were so many little things that you had to get all aligned together just to spend 5 minutes taking a couple of pictures. It was becoming a pain in the butt.
We did an episode a while back, Confessions of a First-Time Flasher. And you spent some time working with a flash, and it worked out just fine for you. Mm-hmm. What were your concerns before that? Were they met, or?
No, I didn't have any concerns that the flash wasn't going to deliver. I pretty much expected that I was going to potentially do more for me, and I haven't played around enough with it, but I still do believe that. What held me back was it just looks so complicated. And I think a lot of that was from reading too much crap on the internet, because as soon as somebody would ask a question about using flash, all these people come in and want to blow them away and impress them with these fancy names and expensive things they have to buy. And I took a look at this, all these setups, and I thought, you know what? I just need to take 2 quick photos.
And that's what we ultimately did. So, and we'll do more of that in the future. But what I wanted to bring up is I only use natural light basically means to me, you don't know how to use flash. And that's okay. Not everybody's born knowing how to use flash, but it's not that difficult to start and learn, and it will actually help you quite a bit. All right, this next one is my favorite, and this is one of the ones from portrait photography where the photographer is looking at his subject and saying, just try and relax.
Oh, you know what? That's like telling somebody who's had too much to drink, you're drunk. It just has the opposite effect. It has
exactly the opposite effect, because you're already nervous. If you're a portrait subject, you're feeling uncomfortable, and someone says, just try and relax. What they're really telling you is you look uptight and unattractive.
Yeah.
And telling you just try and relax is not having the effect of getting them to relax and be comfortable in front of the camera.
Exactly.
I've taken portraits of you enough times, but I guess you know me enough, you can relax in front of me.
I think that's different because we have a relationship, so there isn't that tension. But I'm not a model. I'm not naturally a model, and I'm not comfortable by nature in front of a camera.
You and Tove had some photo shoots, beforehand.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with the photographer there, or is
We didn't, and I think what helped there was that it was you got as many pictures as you fitted into your time slot, and I knew that in advance. So what I did was I said we want to be here, 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 and here, and the idea was to keep moving, and it automatically removed that. There was no time for me to think about anything. We were talking, and it just flowed. I think that helped a lot. The stop and start would have hindered things.
I think that's kind of what I'd like to do when I'm working with a model or a portrait subject that I haven't worked with before. I'm just talking to them because they're a person. I'm not trying to tell them just relax. I'm just talking about any little thing. I'll say something stupid to get them to laugh.
Yeah.
And once they kind of get to know who I am as a person, I think it's easier, and then they can bring out whatever they have. But I'm looking for a conversation so that they don't realize that I'm taking their picture. I mean, obviously they see me there and doing that, but I actually one time had a model and I gave her a math problem.
Did it work? You weren't looking for a smile, I guess.
I wasn't looking for a smile. I got two expressions out of it. The first one, I wasn't going to show anybody because it was, that look of like, are you crazy? Are you nuts? And then she realized what I was doing and she kind of loosened up then. And then I got a very natural and beautiful expression because she realized it was fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to get her to do the math problem. I just want to take her mind off the camera and the lights and all that stuff. So, and other photographers have different ways of doing this, but you just realize that you're dealing with a person, and telling them just try and relax is not really, it may be the most direct approach for what you want, but it's not the most comforting approach for your model.
That's true.
Okay. Another one we have on our list is you can always fix it in Photoshop.
I love that one.
There's a whole website dedicated to this called Photoshop Disasters.
Yeah, but you know what? You also know that it's going to be a disaster when somebody says you can Photoshop it. When Photoshop is a verb, you're in trouble.
And this could be anything from, somebody's in your background or there's something in your foreground. I don't know why people don't just take the picture again if they can. And, live events, weddings, sports, concerts. Yeah, you get your one moment and that's it. But if you're taking on travel photos or portraits, you can actually spend a little time and make sure that everything is just right. And this kind of fits in with the next item on our list is real photographers always get it right in camera. And I thought, well, this is kind of the other end of the coin. There's nothing wrong with using Photoshop on your photos. In fact, you should use some kind of post-processing. Every photo that comes out, even if it looks great, straight out of the camera, as people like to say, it helps to take it into the Lightroom and just work with it a little bit. I am always going to go in there and check my white balance, my blacks and whites. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast and just a few little steps that will help make that photo pop a little bit more. When you're working with your photos, you are very color specific on your photography.
I am. Are you talking about just my little day-to-day ones?
No, not the day-to-day ones. I'm talking about the ones where you're doing your sets.
Yeah, I like bright, vibrant colors. I like contrasting colors. I like light and dark. I do. Occasionally I go for something subtle, and that's usually when I'm bringing up some texture in there. But I am very particular about the temperature of my photo as well. And I like my colors generally to be pretty vibrant.
So even though you're not trying to fix it in Photoshop because you're putting everything just where it needs to be,
yes,
it's not still just right in camera that you take it out. It may be looking nice in camera, but you're still taking it to Lightroom and doing something with it.
Oh, absolutely. I need to enhance it and fix it up in there. It's generally things are a little bit flat. I shoot in RAW, and I need to fix that if nothing else.
And that's why, I understand the idea of saying get it right in camera, but that is your first step, not your last.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay. Another one of my favorites. You walk into someplace, oh, the light is all wrong.
Yeah, and I've probably said that before or said something like along those lines. Maybe not that exact phrase, but no, mine is the lighting in here is terrible for food photos.
One of the things that photographers do, though, is we look at our environment in ways that most people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And this is particularly true for you because we go out as a family every Saturday, and Lee likes to take shots of our food. It's well presented and prepared at most places, and you want to take a shot, but you're always working on your background and what the image is going to be. But then the lighting is a critical part of it. And we'd rather sit by a window than, in some dark corner.
I'd actually rather sit outside, but that's not an option.
Look, when it gets cooler, we can sit outside. When it's Florida sun, with a humidity at 100%, I want air conditioning.
All right. Yeah, but there are some times where we go into a place and I don't attempt to take any pictures. There are certain places where I know that perhaps the light is just so harsh that you get these hard shadows, and that's not flattering on food.
No, it's not. And in restaurants, I get this just because I like to, I use the Evernote scannable thing for taking a picture of my receipt. And restaurants have these little overhead lights that go straight down on your table, which is fine for eating. But then you've got this harsh shadow when I hold my iPhone over the receipt.
Yes.
And same thing happens with your food photography. You'll have a hot spot in certain places on the table. Or we might go someplace where the color temperature of the light is just all wrong.
That's true.
So there are a number of things, but it's really what this is saying is photographers are observant about the quality of light and the color of light and the direction wherever they go. Even if you're not planning on taking photos, you just look and there's, the light is all wrong.
Yes.
It's like, put your iPhone away, honey. I can't take your portrait mode right now.
But that's specifically because you're usually using an iPhone when you go into situations like that. Well, when we do anyways.
Yeah, we're not standing up on the bench seat, with the DSLR doing bird's eye view of the photos or the food. You've done that before. Yes,
we've done that before. Stand on the booth seat. I think as long as you get your photos before somebody comes and tells you to sit down, you just say sorry and sit down. You get the photos anyway. They're not going to come and take away your camera.
Well, first off, we were at Hard Rock Cafe when you did that last time, and that's a place where they're not going to tell you that you can't stand on the seat.
No, that's true.
Okay. I think I'm ready to go pro.
What are you going to do?
I see this on photography forums all the time asking about going pro. I hear people on occasion talking about it. If you're asking the question or telling someone that you're ready to go pro, which is kind of trying to elicit something, you're not ready to go pro.
What does it mean to go pro? I mean,
that's the funny part of it is, what does it mean? Are you go pro doing what? Are you going to be putting yourself out there to do client photography, whether it be weddings? Are you going to try and do commercial photography? What is your business plan?
Are you going to buy a professional camera with 2 card slots?
Oh, that's my favorite is I have a professional camera. I should go pro.
Yes.
There's a lot more to going pro than photography. Photography is like 20% of your business. The rest of it is business.
Yes.
You need to know who your customers are. You need to know how to manage your income and expenses.
Marketing.
All that fun stuff that really goes to a business.
Finance.
If you go to any business, only 20% of it is what it seems to be.
Yes.
If you're asking or saying, I think I'm ready to go pro, you're probably not. Oh, this is another good one. Your photo is copyrighted as soon as you click the shutter.
Is it? No.
You know what? In one sense, it is because you're the creator and you have the copyright to it because you're the only creator. But that does you absolutely no good in a court of law in the U.S. if you don't have a federal copyright registration. That's kind of like the keys to the kingdom or the courthouse. First thing the judges want to know, did you register this as a copyright? When did you do it? Did you do it before the infringement or after the infringement? And all of those things matter if you ever intend to use that copyright.
Yes.
So I don't want to do a whole show on copyright, mostly because it's a legal topic. And even though I've had the misfortune of going through a copyright lawsuit, which I did settle in my favor.
We've got a show on it.
A long way back.
Yeah.
I just say, don't think that just because you took it, there's no way to verify that the copyright is yours if you don't register it. That is the legal binding status in the United States saying, this is my photo, this is my copyright registration number. Now I can enforce it. Before that, you just say, hey, that's my photo. You say, prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge says, yeah, how do you prove it? You didn't register it, so what's your proof? Yeah, I don't know. Oh, here's one favorite. Zoom with your feet. Do you like to zoom with your feet, dear?
I do like to get in close with my feet. I've never really thought of trying a zoom with my feet. But anyways, I mean, if you've got a fixed focal length, you need to move around.
You got a prime lens. You don't have a choice. You got to walk closer or further away to try and get it within the focal length that you've got.
But you know what? If you've got a zoom, I don't see, especially if you've got a DSLR, I do not see why you need to walk closer if you can use the zoom.
What I think about when I'm putting on a lens and choosing my focal length is, what is the field of view that I have? So if you're zooming in on your lens, let's say you've got a 70 to 200 millimeter lens on, the angle of view is wider at 70 millimeter than it is at 200 millimeter. Same thing with a 24 to 70. It's going to be wide at 24. It's going to be more narrow at 70. You choose your focal length. to determine what angle of view you want, and also what compression. And I hate to call it that, because compression really doesn't have to do with your focal length. It's more about the distance between your lens and your subject, but that's another story. But you see the impact of that compression based upon your focal length and where you're standing. Those are what you use for your composition. And if you've got that right, you may have to walk a step or two closer or a step further away. But the idea that zoom with your feet is going to cure all of your problems and that you should never use a zoom lens is just silly. Why would people sell so many zoom lenses if they weren't?
I don't know, because I mean, it's two completely different types of photography, really. When
Look, if you're at a place like Walt Disney World, and I know that we talk about this place entirely too much, there is a reason to get closer to your subject, and that's so some other tourist won't walk in front of your camera while you're ready to take your photo.
Yep.
You may not get the composition you want, but at least you won't have Aunt Betsy's butt in your face.
Yes, because that just can ruin a photograph.
All right, this one is Lee's favorite. Spray and pray. For people who like to do burst mode.
I don't like it. And I've used it. I've tried it. And the reason that I don't use it is no matter what anybody says, I have looked at my photos for myself, and they just lack a certain edge of sharpness when you're hitting that continuous burst mode. So I prefer not to do that. And even with an iPhone, when somebody says, "Oh, I'll take your picture for you," and it's a moving picture, and they kind of holding down, and always say to them, "Please do not hit down, just take individual ones and I'll pick something that works from there." Because mobile phone does not really give you the same camera quality. You don't have as high a number of megapixels in there to play with. So that little burst mode, every little compromise on quality and sharpness is really going to show if somebody's viewing it on a bigger size screen.
That's true, because your resolution is going to have something to do with this. But the fact that you're holding down the shutter, your hand is going to be shaking still. And I know like sports photographers really want cameras that have a high frame rate, frames per second. So you want to get up, 12 or 14 frames per second, because if you're shooting a football game or basketball game, you don't know exactly what's going to be the perfect moment. So you want to have a lot of options to show or share with an editor so that they can pick the right one. The idea that you're going to sit there at an action-filled event and just click the shutter one time and get the perfect shot doesn't work for everybody. It
doesn't. And also look at the kind of equipment that these photographers are using. That is in a different league. So I wouldn't even call that a spray and pray, because they know what they're doing. There is something very specific that they've tested out, and they've done their test shots and things. That is calculated. Spray and pray is different. Spray and pray is holding down the shutter and hoping you get something. These guys have positioned themselves with capable equipment and the knowledge and experience to get something. I think that I would not say that falls into a spray and pray category, but people confuse it and think that spray and pray means just holding down the shutter for continuous burst.
I agree with you. It's like when you're in that kind of professional environment, you didn't get there by chance. You got there by virtue of the work that you've done before.
Yes.
And there are certain things that you do have to do in an environment like that. But if you're on vacation and you're just clicking like 4 or 5 shots off of, a picture of a hotel that you like, you're going to do much better, I think, to take your time, slow down, make your composition, and do one good click.
That's true.
And that's generally why I don't like spray and pray, is I find I will get better results with one shot if I slow down. Most of my mistakes, 99% of my mistakes, I think, are if I get in too much of a hurry and I forget something, I move too quickly, I bump something. It's because I'm rushing. Slow down, take a breath, and then just pick your composition and pull the trigger.
Yes. Take your time.
Okay, another good one is get closer and fill the frame. Look, I get it that a lot of subjects, you really want to see enough of them in the frame. There have been a number of portraits that I've seen where the model is in this glorious landscape or on a big mega yacht, and you can barely see her face. You can't even tell who it is. That's a case where the boat is filling the frame. You're selling the boat, not the model.
Yeah.
But yet there are portrait photographers who are doing this. They go, "Oh, the model looks great here." No, you can't see the model.
Yeah, and I think people, for some reason, automatically, when they want to stand next to something to show that they're there, they always want to back up to where it is. And some photographers seem to give directions to do exactly the same. Instead of calling the subject forward, they've got the...
And that's exactly what you do. And let me give you an example. At the Las Vegas, Welcome to Las Vegas sign, the landscaping is set there. So there's a little bit of a dip and there's a bump. You're supposed to stand by that bump so that you're in a good position to be in, a good spot in your frame with the Welcome to Las Vegas sign in the background. So that way, if you go stand by the Welcome to Las Vegas sign, it's towering over your head.
So now the person taking the photo has to run back behind the bump to take the picture.
It's just, but the idea of filling the frame is, it depends on what you want to do with your photograph. And for some portraits, I really love seeing a portrait, with a nice happy face in there. I've got some like little kids who are smiling. They've got that one thing. You want to see their face. You want to fill the frame with that. But another idea, though, is I'm taking action of a motorcyclist, a bicyclist, a runner. I want to see a little bit of their environment, but I also kind of think, how am I going to use this photo? Sometimes I will specifically shoot wider because I've got a 36 megapixel camera. I've got room to crop in and make that where I want. Do I want a square for Instagram? Do I want to, how do I want to use this? Am I going to be putting this up as a magazine cover or something that hangs on my wall?
Yep. You got to think about your purpose for that photo. We've got to show on that as well.
But that get close and fill the frame. It's not bad advice. It's something that people say all the time, but I don't think any of these
misunderstood.
things, I don't think any of these that we're talking about that aren't necessarily bad advice. There actually could be good advice, but the answer is always, it depends.
Yeah, but I think that people have misinterpreted some of this. What started out as good advice, people misunderstand what it actually means. When someone says spray and pray now, I think generally people have a different idea of what it is. Same with get closer and fill the frame. I mean, all of these things, you can fix it in Photoshop. That was probably said within context and everybody's saying it now. I'm not sure that these have become stupid things to say because nobody understands what they mean anymore.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. I prefer black and white photography. Right. What comes to your mind when if you hear somebody say that?
That you don't know how to work with color. Your white balance sucks.
Exactly right. I'm sorry. That's funny.
Oh, really? Why is it funny?
Because that's exactly right. It's just, I have heard people say, oh, I see things in black and white. I thought, well, unless you've got some kind of eye disease. No, you don't. Look, some people, their vision, clearly there's color blindness. They don't see the same way that maybe I see. I get that. And working on black and white lets them work with, different shades and tints of monochromatic, from black to white and all the grayscale monochrome inside. I don't have anything against black and white. The wallpaper on my computer right now is a portrait in black and white, but I don't only work in black and white.
Yeah, I don't really care for it. I've occasionally done it. And honestly, very, very few times have I done it because I thought, oh, black and white is my choice and would suit this type of photo. Most of the times I've done it is because I can probably get away with it in black and white. It's the only one I have and the white balance sucks.
Look, if the white balance sucks, it's like concert photography. If you get a lime green light on the musician's face.
Oh, there's a flare of color that I just cannot do anything about it.
Turn it to black and white, problem solved. But when you do everything black and white, I've seen people that do this, and then when I occasionally see one of their color photos, I thought, oh, that's awful. They've saturated too much, or they've gotten garish, or they've got too many colors in the shot. And I think saying, I prefer black and white is kind of an excuse for not understanding how to work with color.
Yeah, it's like working with natural lights.
and the other excuse for black and white is, oh, I think it looks classier. Because why? Old photographs didn't happen in color?
Why didn't you just buy like big hats and old clothes?
I don't know. To me, that's kind of like, guitarists who only play acoustic guitar.
There are certain photos that work very well and much better in black and white, and on purpose.
Yes.
But generally, black and white photography is not something that the average photographer focuses on.
You know what? Black and white depends upon what you're really emphasizing. If color can get in the way of your subject, if you're emphasizing your subject, I understand going to black and white for that. But it needs to be simple. If there's too much detail and clutter, black and white looks horrible.
Yes.
And one of the places where I see black and white done well is with cosmetics advertisements. You'll see this sometimes with fashion, but you'll walk into a store and you'll see a model just looking over her shoulder or something like that in black and white. It captures a mood. It's not about the color of the lipstick because let's face it, you don't want to have a glorious lipstick color and then take that color away.
No.
But we've walked into some of the stores where I've seen, the large photos on the wall in black and white.
You go to cosmetic stores?
I was just in the mall to get my Apple Watch.
Oh,
so
because I don't. So I was curious.
I don't go to the mall often, but when I do look at the photos in the stores when I go there. And it's kind of, if you go to a place like Hollister, they always want to have some black and white stuff in the window.
Okay. I don't know if I've ever been in there.
I didn't go in Hollister. I just I walked past it on my way to the Apple store. Look, we don't have anything against black and white, but it has a purpose. And if you're doing everything in black and white, I think if someone's saying that, I think it means that they don't really know how to work with color, or they don't know how to minimize what's in their photo. All right. One of the ones I'm sure everybody who's shot with someone else has said is like, what settings are you using?
You can have so much fun with people when they ask you that if you don't like them. You've got you all set up for a long, like a 60-second exposure for fireworks shot, and someone's about to take a portrait. Like, what settings are you using? Oh, sure. Here, I'll let you check my camera.
You know what? The thing I like about this is probably one of the most honest questions that someone could ask. It's like, I have no idea what I'm doing. What settings are you using? And I hear this a lot if I've, some of the workshops I've gone in the past. I went to a couple of workshops with Joe McNally. I've gone with some local folks around here. And the people who conduct these workshops know to tell their audience what settings they're using, because they're invariably going to be asked, oh, what settings did you use to get that? As if that were the magic formula that you can only get the photo that way.
I understand somebody saying, what aperture are you using for this? Or what is your shutter speed in this light? That makes sense, because that to me is something that is helpful, but generally what settings are you using? I guess
it's a question about learning. You don't, and that's why I said it's one of the most honest questions you can ask. And I think the people who typically do workshops probably get tired of answering this question, but but the customers are there to learn. And it is a valid question. How do I get that photograph? Is it the settings that you're using that makes the difference? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. It depends on, the circumstances. But I've got a photo that I really like, that I remember people asking, Joe, when he was taking this, it was just window light portrait of a guy in Cuba. And he made sure he told everybody, this is my focal length. This is my ISO. These are, he told them everything they wanted to know. And everybody went in there and set their camera to the same settings that he mentioned and went up and said, click. Now, I did it too. And I like the photo. I don't show that photo as part of my portfolio gallery because it's not my creation. That was kind of set up for me. Now, I did some other things around there with a different subject. One of the guys who was actually in the on the workshop with us, I did a different photo of him in the same area, but not the same photo. I went outside the window light and kind of shot in, and that was a completely different settings. I like that photo, and I will use him on a number of shots. But
that was your photo.
Yeah, but the ones where someone's asking, what are your settings? Go ahead and tell them. Let them try. They still aren't going to get the same photo that you got.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't hurt to heal. I don't see it. That's not a secret. But the other interesting thing is you and I will stand side by side when we've done it before shooting fireworks. We both have our cameras on tripods. We've both got our remote cabled shutter release, and our settings are completely different.
Oh, yeah.
Everything, the focal length, the aperture, the the time that the shutter is open. Yeah, we both taking the same photos. They both turn out fine, and they couldn't be more different in terms of settings.
Her fireworks photos are better than mine.
No, you know how to fix yours in Photoshop.
That's right. I'll fix it in Photoshop.
I'm just kidding. He's got some good photos.
As far as what settings you're using, if someone's asking that question, go ahead and tell them. There are some photographers I've seen that are very secretive about their settings. They don't want anybody to know their secret sauce. And I thought, well, how silly is that?
Yeah, because everybody else's camera's got it as well. So.
Look, there's only 3 variables that you're using, without getting flash involved. And as far as your exposure, go ahead and share it. Help someone else learn. It's an honest question. They want to know. They want to try and do as well as you're doing. Help somebody out. All right, our last one, and this is probably the one that I have never really figured out. It's like, how do I get more Instagram followers?
I think you got to go and steal other people's photos that are popular and then post them as your own.
You know what?
I don't know.
That is true. And I've actually blocked people because
Yep.
When I get these accounts that come to me that clearly are doing nothing more than sharing someone else's Instagram photos, they don't have anything original of their own, I figure at some point or another, they're going to take one of mine, certainly not all of them, because I put some crap up on Instagram.
You can actually report them, because then Instagram takes them down, and they do always get back to you, and that also blocks them from your profile.
But we've got different Instagram accounts. We've got, I've got the one I use for my portraits. We have one that is our family one called Beem Pics, and that's, just stuff we see here and there. We've got one for our dogs called Nefarious Labs.
Yes.
And that's the one where I really see the most of them. It's like there's all these lab lovers and lab this and lab that. They're taking everybody else's photos. And most people like those accounts because, I just want to see pretty labs all day long.
See, what you need to do is that's why I make up a unique hashtag for each of my accounts that I make sure that hasn't been in circulation yet, because you can actually search by hashtags, and you just do it every couple of weeks. Anything of yours that's been reposted without credit comes up. Yep. I've got my own hashtags that I add in.
So there's your tip for today for Instagram followers. I don't know if we can tell you how to get more Instagram followers, because I've not really worked my Instagram account. I think I need to, but right now when someone asks, how do you get more Instagram followers? I guess my answer is pay for them. No, don't pay for them.
No.
Thank you so much for joining us at the Photo Flunky Show. We hope that this was a little bit of entertaining and fun for you. I don't know if it was helpful or not, but we had a good time sharing it. And please, if you've got comments, let us know. Go to williambeam.com/episode 139 and leave a comment for us. Tell us if you've got another thing that's something that photographers typically say. I would love it if you'd subscribe to us on iTunes. Just go to williambeam.com/iTunes. Hit the subscription button there. If you're on your phones, go ahead and subscribe right now. You know you want to. You'll get your show every week, every Wednesday. Thanks so much. We'll see you again next week.